Hello, and welcome to another Ranger's unit of the week. And today we're taking a look at the Stug III G. So the Stug III was one of Germany's most widely used, pretty much tanks / fighting vehicles / assault gun during the Second World War, with over 10,000 being produced. Its design really dates back to the 30s when the German military was starting to rearm itself. With experience from the First World War, there was a lack of essentially assault guns or storm artillery with infantry divisions during attacking fortifications. So they needed a way to bring up a artillery gun essentially for direct fire support to the front line. And so the assault gun concept was born. Essentially they got a short barreled 75mm gun onto a Panzer III chassis. They didn't bother with the turret because that would make things more complicated, and just stuck it in a forward firing casemate mount. These new Stugs or Sturmgeschützes assault guns would be assigned primarily to infantry divisions. There was some internal German politics about assigning tanks to infantry divisions, which I'm not going to get into, but they would start to see limited service by the Battle of France, with only a few really being used. But it wasn't really until Operation Barbarossa where Stugs started to see more widespread use. Now, they came into a rather interesting problem. Essentially, the Stugs were being assigned to infantry divisions, and infantry division commanders with not a whole lot of tank experience got these tanks. And they said, hey, well, it's a tank, right? We can use this to fight other tanks which we come across. Which wasn't really the whole idea of the Stug. It was meant to just attack fortifications and provide infantry support with its low-velocity 75mm cannon. But a commander sees a tank as a tank and is just going to throw it up against other tanks because that's the best thing they have. And so there was a need to make it a better anti-tank vehicle, and also of the more heavier Soviet armor being mass-produced, like the T-34s. It would end up re-equipping the Stug starting in mid-1942 with the longer-barreled 75mm gun. And in my personal opinion, this was probably one of the best tanks which the Germans produced in the Second World War. It had adequate armor protection, its low profile made it hard to hit in great ambush situations. Its gun, once armed with long 75mm, was more than adequate for dealing with the majority of allied armoured threats, and could still provide adequate high explosive fire support. And more importantly, it was cheap to make because it was using proven technology which worked. In game, the Stug III G is an 80-point medium tank available to 16th Panzer, Panzer Division Tatra, 23rd Panzer Grenadier Division, Panzer Grenadier Division Großdeutschland, 11th SS Panzer Grenadier Division, Group Hartnig, 1st Ski Jäger, 3rd Fallschirmjäger, 14th Infantry, 28th Jäger, 78th Sturm, 122nd Infantry, 352nd Infantry, Toulon, 12th Tartleck, and the 5th Cavalry Motorized Division. There is also the Romanian Stug, which is available to the Romanian Group Blindata division I can't say right now. It's a lot of bloody divisions. Let's just take a look at the weapons. The weapon loadout is nothing too crazy. You have your long 75mm gun with 38 AP shells and 18 high explosive shells. It's a pretty damn good gun. You can kill the majority of tanks with it, and the high explosive shells are pretty adequate with dealing with enemy infantry. And then you just have single MG34 machine gun. Down to miscellaneous stats, has 90mm of frontal armor, strong top armor, 40mm on the side and on the rear. It goes 33 kilometers off-road, 41 kilometers on the road, has medium stealth and very low optics. So in battle, I'm quite surprised I haven't actually covered the Stug III G yet. Yes, we've covered the Sturmy before, but I mean, this is the Stug III G, and is a very common sight on the Steel Division battlefield. And for being such a backbone for so many German divisions, it is, honestly, not that bad. The gun is more than adequate for dealing with the majority of armoured vehicles, and you have just enough infantry fire support with the high explosive shells and machine guns to deal with enemy infantry. You don't have a whole lot of high explosive shells compared to other tanks, so that's not really the ideal use of the Stug. It's more of an anti-tank vehicle. Now, interestingly, when compared to the Panzer IV, which is another backbone unit of a lot of German divisions, so usually Panzer IVs and Stug IIIs don't really cross-contaminate separated in divisions per se. Honestly, I prefer the Stug. It's 5 more points, but the main thing is you got that 15mm of extra frontal armor, and that makes a pretty big difference. Those 45mm guns and low velocity T-34 guns have a much worse time trying to penetrate Stug III G compared to a Panzer IV. Yes, you lose a machine gun, and yes, you don't have a turret, but frankly, not having a turret in Steel Division isn't too bad. I mean, even with the Panzer IV, with the turret is better in CQC. You don't want to be throwing your Panzer IVs in CQC situations, as T-34-76s will eat you up for breakfast. So the ideal use case for the Stug III G is to keep it back and use it as a long-range anti-tank sniping unit, or mid-range too, just try not to get it too close. And it is such an important unit for so many of the divisions which is available to, as for the most part, it's really available to infantry-style divisions. And these infantry divisions usually don't have a whole lot of tanks. The Stug III G is really your only proper quote-unquote tank, assault gun, whatever you want to call it, available to you. So it is a very vital unit in those divisional setups. But overall, the Stug III G is a very good unit. It's not the best thing in the world, it's not a Wunderwaffen, but it's a solid piece of standard equipment which will serve you well if used correctly. And, well, I mean, it's a Stug. I have a big fondness of Stugs. I like how they look. Here were one of the few German armoured vehicles which were actually pretty good and rather reasonable design philosophy around it. It wasn't some greedy Wunderwaffen. And no, it's just good. It's good, standard, nothing really bad about it. And, well, I'm going to leave it off at that. This has been another Rang Rouge unit of the week. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. And, usual, please just take it easy.